William strips title after Camilla's granddaughter bullies Princess Charlotte. What started as a private family incident is now a royal scandal. After repeated reports of bullying, Prince William took swift action, not just as a father, but as future king. The incident didn't begin with headlines. It started in whispers, schoolyard gossip passed between staff and parents, then quietly brought to the palace's attention. Princess Charlotte, known for her quiet confidence and sharp wit, had reportedly been the target of repeated teasing. The source? A classmate who, by all accounts, should have been an ally, Camilla's granddaughter. At first, it was brushed off as childish behavior. Minor squabbles between young royals aren't new, but this wasn't one isolated moment. According to school insiders, the behavior continued. Subtle jabs, exclusion from group activities, and even mimicking Charlotte in front of others. Teachers raised concerns. Staff noticed changes in Charlotte's demeanor, and eventually, word reached her parents. For Kate, it was more than just a mother's instinct kicking in. She had worked hard to keep her children grounded, protected, and far from palace drama. But now, that drama had found them. And it was coming from inside the royal family. Prince William was said to be furious. Protective by nature and deeply connected to his children, he wasn't about to let this slide. Behind closed doors, a quiet confrontation took place. William reached out directly to Queen Camilla, not through aides or intermediaries, but face to face. It was a tense conversation, one that insiders say was cordial but firm. William wasn't pointing fingers at Camilla herself, but he made it clear this could not continue. Camilla was reportedly blindsided. Her granddaughter had been part of her public redemption arc, seen at charity events, family holidays, even royal Christmas walks. She had become a symbol of the new blended royal family. But now, that image was cracking. Still, Camilla didn't act immediately, and that's where the real damage began. Days passed, then weeks, and while the palace tried to downplay the issue publicly, tensions were boiling inside. Kate kept her distance. William grew colder, and Charlotte, while continuing to appear in public with her usual grace, stayed noticeably quiet. Then came the final straw, a leaked report from someone inside the school. It described not just teasing, but an organized pattern of behavior that targeted Charlotte specifically. The press picked it up, social media exploded, and the palace had no choice but to respond. But it wasn't a statement. It wasn't an apology. It was an action. William personally requested the removal of a courtesy title previously extended to Camilla's granddaughter. A symbolic but powerful gesture. One that sent a message not just to the child, but to Camilla herself. Enough was enough. Camilla was stunned. The title wasn't grand. It wasn't a duchessship or a peerage. It was a courtesy, extended quietly when she became queen. A gesture of goodwill to show that her family, once seen as outsiders, were now part of the royal fold. For William to revoke it, and to do so unilaterally, cut deep. Behind palace walls, it triggered immediate backlash. Camilla reportedly felt humiliated, blindsided by a move she believed was disproportionate. To her, this wasn't just about a child's behavior. It was about control. About being reminded that no matter how far she'd come, she still wasn't fully accepted. But the real rupture came with Charles. The king had always tried to keep the peace between his wife and his heir. He believed in the importance of unity, especially as his reign continued under the shadow of cancer treatments and family strain. But this was a direct strike from his own son. Charles tried to intervene. According to insiders, he requested a meeting with William, hoping to calm things down, to frame the issue as a private family matter rather than a public punishment. But William refused to budge. He respected his father, yes, but when it came to protecting his children, There was no room for compromise. Kate reportedly stood by him completely. This wasn't just about Charlotte, it was about precedent. If they allowed this behavior to go unchecked within the family, what message did that send? And more personally, it reopened old wounds. Kate had never fully forgotten Camilla's early coldness toward her. Subtle slights, backhanded compliments, and a visible discomfort with her growing popularity. Now, with Charlotte caught in the crossfire, those old tensions came roaring back. Palace staff began noticing the change. William and Kate no longer attended events where Camilla would be present. Joint engagements were suddenly rescheduled. Photographers were told to avoid capturing moments between them, not because of scandal, but because there were none. The warmth was gone. Camilla, for her part, became more withdrawn. Publicly, she smiled. She carried out her duties. But privately, she was said to be shaken. Her granddaughter, someone she had tried to shield from the press, had now become a symbol of division. And while she had tried to play the role of supportive stepmother and grandmother figure, it was clear her influence was waning. This wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a quiet power shift. For years, Camilla had held a surprising amount of behind-the-scenes sway. But now, the real power was asserting itself. And it wasn't hers. William had drawn a line in the sand, and in the process, he had made something else clear. This royal family would not be run by compromise anymore, especially not when his children were involved. The British press was unusually quiet. Normally, a royal fallout of this scale would have sparked headlines across every tabloid. But this time, it was as if someone had hit mute. The title removal, the whispers of bullying, the tension between households. Barely a whisper made it to print. That wasn't a coincidence. Palace aides, already stretched thin by the king's health and Prince Harry's unpredictable moves, went into full crisis mode. Their goal wasn't to fix the problem, it was to contain it, to make sure it didn't explode into something public. Because if the truth came out that Queen Camilla's granddaughter was accused of bullying a future queen, it would shatter the fragile image they had spent years rebuilding. Damage control began immediately. Off-the-record calls to editors, carefully crafted statements about family privacy and miscommunication, and most notably, a wave of positive coverage surrounding Camilla, charity visits, warm smiles, and photo ops with animals. The goal? Shift the narrative, and fast. But the public wasn't fooled. Royal watchers began to notice strange patterns. Why was Camilla suddenly absent from back-to-back events with William and Kate? Why had a joint foundation appearance been cancelled last minute? Why was Princess Charlotte being shielded from the press even more than usual? Online forums, particularly those run by royal enthusiasts, picked up on it first. Side-by-side images showed frosty glances at recent appearances. TikTokers began decoding body language, and while major news outlets stayed silent, the internet did not. Then came the anonymous tip-offs. Sources close to the palace began feeding breadcrumbs to blogs and independent media. One hinted that Camilla's side of the family had overstepped. Another noted that Charlotte had been visibly distressed after a private family gathering. It didn't take long before speculation exploded. Was Camilla protecting her granddaughter over the future queen? Had Charles known what was happening all along? Was William laying the groundwork to push Camilla aside entirely? The palace refused to comment, but their silence said enough. What worried insiders most wasn't just the story itself. It was how quickly public sentiment began shifting. For years, Camilla had enjoyed a slow but steady rise in public favor. From the other woman to queen consort, her journey was unexpected and fragile. But this incident cracked the foundation. People weren't angry. They were uncomfortable, disappointed, questioning. And that's when the palace realized this wasn't going to be a one-day story. It had legs, and if it wasn't handled carefully, it could evolve into something far more damaging. A referendum on Camilla's place in the monarchy altogether. From that moment forward, every appearance, every photo, every comment, it was all calculated. The monarchy wasn't just in damage control, it was in defense mode. For Prince William, this wasn't just royal protocol, it was personal. He had watched his wife suffer under intense media pressure. He had defended his children from unwanted attention their entire lives. And now, one of them, his only daughter, was caught in the middle of something he never expected, a family betrayal. Behind the scenes, William was furious. Sources close to Kensington Palace say that once the full story reached him, not the filtered version passed through advisors, but the truth, he immediately requested a private audience with his father. No aides, no Camilla, just the king and his heir. The conversation was short, tense, and irreversible. William didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply laid out the facts. He had seen messages. He had heard from Charlotte's school staff. What had happened wasn't a minor squabble between children. It was sustained behavior that made his daughter feel unsafe and isolated. And worse, it had been ignored. Camilla had reportedly been informed weeks earlier, and instead of intervening, she had allegedly downplayed it, insisting it was a misunderstanding and defending her granddaughter's intentions. That, for William, was the final line. He told his father that moving forward, his family would be setting their own boundaries. No more shared events, no more staged photo ops, and most importantly, no more titles for Camilla's side of the family. The consequences were immediate. Within days, Camilla's granddaughter was quietly removed from royal charity pages. Her honorary patronages, which were symbolic extensions of Camilla's role, disappeared without explanation. Invitations to upcoming royal events were suddenly adjusted. But William wasn't done. He also requested that palace communications ensure clarity around titles. From this point forward, the emphasis would be on the working royals, those born into or married into the core family. That meant Kate, George, Charlotte, Louis, and himself. It did not include Camilla's children or grandchildren. For the first time, the Prince of Wales had drawn a public line in the sand, and everyone inside Buckingham Palace felt the tremor. King Charles was said to be heartbroken, not just because of the tension, but because he realized this moment was a turning point. His dream of a united, blended royal family was crumbling, and he couldn't stop it. Camilla, meanwhile, withdrew from several appearances in the following weeks. Officially, it was due to personal scheduling conflicts. Unofficially, insiders say she was devastated. But William didn't waver. He wasn't acting out of vengeance. He was protecting his daughter. And in doing so, he sent a message not just to the palace, but to the public. The next generation of royals would not repeat the mistakes of the past. No more silence, no more cover-ups. Charlotte came first. Kate Middleton has never been one for dramatic statements. Her power has always been in her presence, calm, composed, and quietly commanding. But in the days after the scandal broke behind palace doors, her silence spoke volumes. She didn't issue a statement. She didn't leak anything to the press. What she did do was show the world exactly where she stood, beside her daughter and behind her husband. Just days after Prince William confronted King Charles, Kate appeared at a local children's hospice charity event. She arrived alone, wearing a soft but somber navy blue coat. Her expression was warm, but observers noticed her tone was more reserved than usual. Still gracious, still graceful, but unmistakably guarded. And when she was asked how her children were doing, something the press rarely dares to ask directly, Kate paused. Then, with a polite smile, she replied, "They're doing well. They're surrounded by love, and that's what matters most. That single sentence set royal watchers ablaze. It wasn't just what she said, it was what she didn't say. No mention of Camilla, no reference to extended family, no attempt to smooth things over. Her focus was her children. Period. Behind the scenes, Kate's response was equally resolute. According to insiders, she supported William's decision entirely. In fact, she encouraged him to be firm. For years, she had tried to give Camilla the benefit of the doubt. She had smiled through awkward public events. She had extended olive branches during holiday gatherings. She had even allowed Camilla's grandchildren to be present at royal functions, despite quiet concerns from her own staff. But this was different. Princess Charlotte had come home in tears. She had become more withdrawn at school. And after learning the full scope of what had occurred and how it was initially handled, Kate was done playing nice. She reportedly told a senior aide, "This family has weathered enough cruelty. My daughter won't be next." Her actions backed her words. Kate canceled a joint appearance she was scheduled to attend with Camilla. No public explanation. The event went ahead, but royal reporters noted her absence. And for the first time in months, Kensington Palace didn't attempt to cover for it. It was a quiet protest, and yet more powerful than any headline. Inside the palace, this created a ripple effect. Other royals began distancing themselves too. Princess Anne reportedly reached out to Kate privately, offering her support. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, made a surprise visit to Kensington to check in. And even Prince Edward was overheard at an event mentioning how strong Kate is, stronger than most people know. Kate never asked for this spotlight, but now that it had found her, she used it to protect the one thing that mattered most, her family. Because in the end, Kate knew what the monarchy had forgotten. Being royal means nothing if you can't be trusted with the ones you love. For King Charles, this incident didn't just threaten family unity, it exposed a dangerous generational rift. And for the first time since becoming monarch, he was on the losing side of it. Prince William had always tried to respect his father's leadership. He supported Charles' vision of a slimmed-down monarchy, took on more royal duties, and even tolerated Camilla's growing role after the Queen's passing. But what happened to Charlotte changed everything, and William didn't back down. Behind closed doors, the father-son dynamic had shifted. According to palace insiders, Charles asked William to wait before making anything official. He reportedly wanted time to resolve things quietly. But William was unmoved. "This isn't about optics," he allegedly told his father. "This is about my daughter." For a man like Charles, raised in a world where image always came first, that hit hard. He had spent decades waiting for the crown, sacrificed personal desires, endured criticism, and when he finally got the throne, he made the one decision that caused the most internal strain: publicly elevating Camilla. He thought the family would fall in line. They didn't. Sources close to Buckingham Palace say that after William made his decision, Charles met with senior aides in what was described as a tense and emotional meeting. For the first time, he began to realize that his vision for the monarchy, one that included Camilla at the center, might not survive the next generation. To make matters worse, public opinion wasn't on his side. In the days following William's move, social media exploded with support for the Prince and Princess of Wales. Hashtags like Chichon Protect Charlotte and Chichon Team Kate began trending in the UK and beyond. Online polls showed overwhelming approval for William's actions, while Camilla's favorability quietly declined. Charles was stunned. He had weathered decades of criticism, from Diana's global popularity to scandals with his own siblings. But this felt different. It wasn't just the public. It was his own son, his legacy. And for a monarch who had fought so long for acceptance, the rejection cut deep. Worse still, Charles found himself isolated. Princess Anne, always loyal but fiercely principled, reportedly advised him to step back and reflect. Prince Edward remained neutral, but even longtime royal aides were whispering about long-term consequences if the rift with William wasn't addressed. It wasn't just a disagreement anymore. It was a warning. The future of the monarchy doesn't just belong to King Charles. It belongs to William, Kate, and their children. And the public is watching closely to see which version of the crown survives. One that clings to the past, or one willing to draw a line, even if it's within the royal family itself. As the tension grows, Charles is beginning to understand. He may still wear the crown, but the power is slowly shifting. And this time, it's not his to control. King Charles still wears the crown, but the power is slipping. William's bold move to protect Charlotte signaled a shift, not just in family dynamics, but in public loyalty. The monarchy's future now leans toward a new generation. Inside Clarence's house, the mood was tense. For Queen Camilla, this wasn't just embarrassing, it was devastating. She had weathered years of public scrutiny, been called names by tabloids, compared endlessly to Diana. And just when she thought she'd finally earned her place, it all unraveled in a matter of days. What made it worse wasn't just the backlash over her granddaughter. It was the silence from within her own family. Charles had tried to comfort her, insiders say, but his words felt hollow, because while he didn't openly side with William, he didn't stop him either. And Camilla noticed. She felt abandoned, one former staffer said. This wasn't just about the title being stripped. It was about what it meant. The message was clear. Camilla wasn't untouchable. Her family wasn't above reproach. And even her status as queen consort couldn't protect her from consequences anymore. Behind the scenes, Camilla reportedly broke down. Not just from the decision, but from the isolation. She had worked hard to build bridges. She joined charities, took on royal engagements, smiled through awkward photo ops with Kate and the children. But now, the fragile peace was gone, and there was no pretending it hadn't shattered. For days, she kept a low profile, canceled a public event, skipped a lunch she was scheduled to attend with Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. The palace called it a scheduling adjustment, but those close to her say it was something else, a retreat. She was humiliated, said a source familiar with the household. Not just in public, but in private too. Inside royal circles, talk began to shift. Not about how to fix things, but how to phase her out gently. That alone was shocking. Camilla had once been seen as the woman Charles couldn't live without. He fought tooth and nail for public acceptance of her. And for years, it seemed he'd succeeded. But now, even Charles was quiet, measured, careful. He knew pushing back would only make things worse. So when aides began suggesting Camilla take on fewer high-profile engagements, Charles didn't object. When the press team revised future event lineups to center Kate instead, he didn't resist. And when Camilla herself asked to step away from the spotlight, Charles gave a simple nod. No fight, no protest, just quiet resignation. In private, Camilla remained by Charles' side, but publicly, her era was ending. And what started as a single disciplinary act by William, meant to protect his daughter, had turned into something much larger, a shift in power. Camilla wasn't being punished. She was being written out, gently, quietly, permanently. The queen consort was still technically a royal, but no longer the heart of the palace. Camilla's quiet retreat sent a loud message. Her reign, once hard-fought, was slipping away. What began as William defending Charlotte had evolved into a silent reordering of the monarchy. Camilla wasn't exiled, but she was no longer central. The woman Charles once fought to crown was now fading from view, one canceled event at a time. While the media spotlight burned hot around Camilla, One royal figure stayed eerily silent: Kate Middleton. She didn't comment, she didn't react, she didn't leak a thing. But her silence wasn't passive, it was powerful. And in the world of royal politics, silence can be louder than any speech. Kate didn't have to say a word because the facts spoke for her. Her daughter, Princess Charlotte, had been mocked, targeted, and humiliated, allegedly by Camilla's granddaughter during a private family event. It wasn't just children being children, as some tried to downplay. It was personal, and it crossed a line. According to palace insiders, Kate had been deeply hurt, not just by the bullying incident, but by Camilla's response, or rather, lack of one. Camilla reportedly brushed it off, treated it like gossip, refused to address it properly with her granddaughter or the family. And for Kate, that silence spoke volumes. She expected Camilla to step up, said one source, to act like a grandmother, to draw the line. But instead, Camilla looked away. That moment changed everything. Behind the scenes, Kate didn't raise her voice. She didn't storm out, but her demeanor shifted. She stopped taking Camilla's calls, declined one-on-one invites, and when joint appearances were scheduled, she requested to be seated apart. Quiet moves, but deliberate, and William noticed. For the Prince of Wales, this wasn't just about his daughter, it was about his wife, the woman who had endured so much public pressure, always with grace. And now she was being made to feel unsafe, even within her own royal circle. So William acted, not impulsively, not out of anger, but with full intention. He didn't just remove Camilla's granddaughter from future events, he stripped her ceremonial role. A symbolic act, yes, but a pointed one. And he did it without consulting Camilla first. When the palace made the change public, Kate still didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her silence was the message, and the public heard it. Across social media, support poured in for the Princess of Wales. Hashtags trended, headlines softened. Even usually, critical tabloids shifted their tone. The country had chosen a side, and it wasn't Camilla's. Within royal circles, this moment was being quietly referred to as Kate's quiet revolution. She didn't raise her voice, but she changed the game. For years, Camilla had risen quietly through the ranks, but now Kate was doing the same. Not through scandal or spin, but through restraint and quiet authority. She didn't retaliate. She didn't demand consequences. She simply withdrew her warmth and let the institution respond. And it did, not with public drama, but with real consequences behind closed doors. Because in this new royal era, it wasn't power that mattered most. It was public trust, and after this moment, Kate had it. Camilla did not. For King Charles, this was no longer just a family disagreement, it was a crossroads between loyalty and legacy. He had stood by Camilla for decades, through scandal, through public outrage, through the darkest years of his personal and royal life. When no one else believed in her, Charles did. He fought to make her queen, not just in title, but in presence. He believed she had earned it. But after the incident involving Camilla's granddaughter and Princess Charlotte, everything changed. Quietly, but unmistakably. For weeks, Charles had tried to keep the peace behind palace walls. He met with Camilla privately, urging her to address the situation. He hoped she would reach out to Kate, make amends, show leadership. But Camilla refused. She believed it would blow over, said a senior aide. She thought William and Kate were overreacting, and that Charles would shield her, like he always had. But this time, Charles didn't. The incident had shaken the family. William was furious. Kate was wounded. Even Princess Anne, who had long been skeptical of Camilla's rising influence, sided with the Waleses. The royal household began to fracture, and Charles couldn't ignore it. Then came the final straw, Camilla's exclusion from an upcoming state event. On the official program, she had been listed to attend. A high-profile engagement, one she would have co-hosted beside the king. But just days before the announcement went public, Camilla's name was quietly removed. No explanation, no substitute offered, just gone. And the most telling part? Charles didn't protest. He didn't demand she be added back. He didn't even mention it in official meetings. He simply moved forward, alone. To those closest to him, this was the moment it all shifted. He was letting go, not out of anger, not out of punishment, but because he understood that protecting Camilla was now threatening the unity of the crown. His legacy wasn't just about personal loyalty anymore. It was about preserving the institution he had waited a lifetime to lead. From that point on, Charles made no further push for Camilla's visibility. Appearances were scaled back. Her advisors were sidelined. Even her press team grew quiet. It wasn't a dramatic exit. It was a fade. Slow, deliberate, undeniable. Behind closed doors, Camilla remained present. She still supported Charles in private. But in public, she was no longer the face of the monarchy. Insiders say Charles made one final request, that no formal statement be released. No scandal, no spectacle, just a quiet retreat. Because in the end, he still loved her. That had never changed, but the throne demanded sacrifice. And this time, it was Camilla who had to pay the price. She hadn't abdicated, she hadn't been removed, but she had been gently, irrevocably set aside. And Charles, heartbroken but clear-eyed, allowed it to happen. For the first time in decades, he chose the crown over Camilla. In the end, there was no grand announcement, no press release, no dramatic farewell, just silence and absence. Camilla, once crowned beside the man she waited a lifetime to stand next to, is now quietly stepping back, not by scandal, but by consequence. A royal chapter closing, not with fury, but with finality. King Charles didn't speak the words aloud. He didn't need to. The shift was written in cancelled appearances, in titles withdrawn, in a queen fading from view. The monarchy moves forward, leaner, younger, tightly guarded. But behind the palace walls, one truth remains. The woman Charles once defied a nation to love is no longer standing beside him. And that silence says more than any royal decree ever could. If this story surprised you, hit like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more royal reveals and untold truths.